Hello everybody, this is Refresh and I'm here to bring you a battle between the 5 Ravnica Allegiance guild kits and the Face the Hydra challenge deck from Theros. We'll be playing 2 games against the deck, the first on normal difficulty with 3 Hydra heads, and then we'll be playing on hard mode. We'll be using 2 hero cards for these games, and since I only have 1 of each hero card, I'll be applying them to both decks simultaneously. The first card that we'll be using is the Harvester. It says tap, draw a card, then discard a card. And then we'll also be using the Warrior, which says tap, target creature you control gains haste until end of turn. We'll get started by drawing 7 cards apiece. Simic draws Applied Biomancy, Island, Miming Slime, Forest, Omnibian, Skitter Eel, and Forest. I guess this is alright. Orzhov draws a Keening Banshee, Imperious Oligarch, Skeletal Vampire, Pillory of the Sleepless, Plagued Rasulka, Swamp, and Ultimate Price. 1 land is too few lands. We will mulligan this and get a new hand. Now Orzhov draws an Orzhov Pontiff, Swamp, Orzhov Enforcer, Orzhov Guildgate, Plains, Mortify, and Debtor's Knell. I think this is an okay hand to keep, so we will do so. Rakdos draws a Crypt Champion, Cackling Flames, Carnival Hellsteed, Mountain, Augur Spree, and Swamp. This is not a great hand because it's very slow. However, I think we can't ship back a hand that actually has the mana that we need. Gruul draws a Wasteland Viper, Olashed the Hateseed, Scab Clan Mauler, Burning Tree Shaman, Forest, Flames of the Razeboar, and Mountain. Normally I would not keep a hand like this, but I think Wasteland Viper into Scab Clan Mauler is actually quite good, and so we will keep this hand. Azorius plays a Sphinx of New Prob, Judge's Familiar, Island, Sphinx's Insight, Stoic Ephemera, Lavinia the 10th, and Azorius Guildmage. 1 land is no-go. We will return this and use our free mulligan. Azorius draws Lavinia the 10th, Azorius Chancery, Wind Reaver, Island, Azorius Signet, Sky Hussar, and Liev Sky Knight. This is not a very good hand, but I think we're going to end up keeping it because we're going to hope that we can draw another land, or we'll just have to bounce the island with the Chancery and suffer a tight mana package for a turn or 2. Because this is multiplayer, we'll draw on the first turn. Simic draws a Forest, Orzhov draws a Taste of Karlov, Rakdos draws a Demon Fire, Gruul draws a Forest, Azorius draws a Dovescape. Turn 1. Simic will play an island. Orzhov will play the Orzhov Guildgate. It enters the battlefield tapped. Rakdos will play a swamp. Gruul will play a forest. We'll tap the forest and play the Wasteland Viper. This is a 1/2 snake with Death Touch, and it has Blood Rush for green, but that won't matter now. Azorius will play the island. We'll tap the warrior to give the Viper haste. The Viper attacks a Hydra head. The Hydra head dies. It says when the Hydra head leaves the battlefield, each player gains 2 life. There are 5 players, so each guild will go up to 22. We'll reveal 2 cards to see if there are any new heads. There's 1 new head. We'll pass the turn to the Hydra. The Hydra will cast the topmost card, which is Swallow the Hero Whole. Each player exiles a creature he or she controls until the Hydra's next turn. When a head leaves the battlefield, return the exiled cards to the battlefield under their owner's control. We'll exile the Wasteland Viper. At the end of the turn, we'll use the Harvester. Simic draws a Vinelasher Kudzu, and we'll discard the Omnibian. Orzhov draws a Vindictive Vampire, and we will discard the Vindictive Vampire. Rakdos draws Rakdos, Lord of Riots, and we will discard the Cackling Flames. Gruul draws a Borborygmos, and we will discard Flames of the Razeboar. Azorius draws Azorius Guildmage, and we'll discard Lavinia. We'll untap. Simic draws a Rabid Hybridization. Orzhov draws a Plains. Rakdos draws a Rakdos Guildgate. Gruul draws a Gruul Turf. Azorius draws an island. Simic will play the Forest. We'll tap the Forest and the island and play the Vinelasher Kudzu. This is a 1/1 plant, and whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, put a 1/1 counter on it. Orzhov will play the Swamp. We'll tap the Guildgate for white and the Swamp for black, and we'll play the Orzhov Enforcer. This is a 1/2 human rogue with Death Touch and Afterlife 1. Rakdos will play the Guildgate tapped. Gruul will play a mountain. Azorius will play an island. We'll tap both of the islands to play the Azorius Signet. This is a artifact and you can pay 1, tap it to add blue and a white. We'll tap the warrior to give 1 creature per player haste. This gives the Vinelasher Kudzu haste, but we're only going to attack with the hasted Orzhov Enforcer. It'll attack into one of the Hydra heads. Oh, we forgot to do the Hydra's damage. All of us should be down to 19 life. So we'll do that first. Then the Enforcer kills the Hydra head. The Hydra head dies. This will resolve Swallow the Hero whole, and Wasteland Viper will return to the control of Gruul. Then we'll all gain 2 life apiece to go up to 21. Then we'll reveal 2 cards to see if there are any new heads. There's 1 new head. Gruul will tap the Forest in the Mountain to play the Scab Clan Mauler. This is a 1/1 Human Berserker with Bloodthirst 2. And because our opponent was dealt damage this turn, we'll get 2 +1/+1 counters, make it a 3/3 Bloodthirst with Trample. Then we'll pass to the Hydra. The Hydra casts a Topmost card, which is another Hydra head. We'll all take 4 damage apiece and go down to 17 each. At the end of the turn, we'll use the Harvester. Simic draws an island. We'll discard the Rabid Hybridization. Orzhov draws a final payment. We'll discard the final payment. Rakdos draws a Rakdos Carnarium. We'll discard Demon Fire. Gruul draws a Rhythm of the Wild, and we will discard the Borborygmos. Azorius draws an island, and we'll discard the Windreaver. We'll untap. Simic draws an island. Orzhov draws a Basilica Bellhaunt. Rakdos draws a Theater of Horrors. Gruul draws a Burning Tree Emissary. Azorius draws a Plains. Simic will play an island, which will put a counter on the Kudzu. Orzhov will play a Plains. We'll tap 3 and play the Orzhov Pontiff. This is a 1/1 human cleric with Haunt, and when it enters the battlefield or a creature it haunts dies. Creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn, or creatures you don't control get -1/-1 until end of turn. We'll choose to give ourselves +1/+1 so we don't kill and weaken everybody. Rakdos plays a mountain. We'll tap 3 mana and play the Theater of Horrors. This is an enchantment. It says, at the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of your library. During your turn, if an opponent lost life this turn, you may play cards exiled with Theater of Horror. You can pay 3 and a red for it to deal 1 damage to target opponent or planeswalker. Gruul will play a forest. We'll tap all 3 of these, and then we'll play the Rhythm of the Wild. This is an enchantment. It says creature spells you control can't be countered, and non-token creatures you control have Riot. Azorius will play a Plains, and then we'll just have these 3 to play the Liev Sky Knight. This is a 3/1 human knight with flying. When it enters the battlefield, detain target non-land permanent an opponent controls. We'll detain a Hydra head, but that shouldn't matter. We'll tap the warrior to give all the most recently cast creatures haste. We'll attack one of the Hydra heads with the Orzhov Enforcer. The Viper and the Mauler will both hit a Hydra head as well. So will the Sky Knight. This will kill all 4 heads. We will gain 8 life per player, taking us all to 25. And then we'll reveal 8 cards to see if there are any new heads. There is 1 new Hydra head. Then we'll pass the turn to the Hydra, which will cast the topmost card. It is another Hydra head. The 2 Hydra heads will deal 2 damage to each player, taking us all down to 23. At the end of the Hydra's turn, we'll use the Harvester. Simic draws a forest and discards a forest. Azorius draws a Teysa Orzhov Scion, and then discards the Basilica Bellhaunt. Rakdos draws a swamp and discards a mountain. Gruul draws a Scab Clan Mauler and discards the Mauler. Azorius draws a Dramatic Rescue and discards the Guildmage. We untap. Simic draws a Simic Guildgate. Orzhov draws an Orzhov Signet. Rakdos draws a Rakdos Signet. Gruul draws a mountain. Azorius draws an island. Simic will play a forest. We'll tap all 4 of these to play the Skitter Eel. This is a 3/3 fish crab with 2 blue adapt 2. Because we played the land, the Kudzu will grow. Orzhov will play a Plains. We'll tap 2 Plains, an Orzhov Guildgate, and a Swamp to play the Teysa Karlov. She is a 2/4 legendary human advisor. If a creature dying causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. Creature tokens you control have Vigilance and Lifelink. Rakdos will play a Swamp, and Rakdos should have exiled a card under Theater of Horrors. It'll be a Rakdos Shred Freak. Gruul will play a Mountain. We'll tap the Forest and the Mountain to play the Burning Tree Emissary. It enters with Riot. We'll put a counter on the Burning Tree Emissary. It's a 2/2 human shaman, and it says when it enters the battlefield, add green and red. We already have green and red. We'll add another green and another red, and we'll play Ulashed the Hateseed. This is a 0/0 legendary Hellion Hydra. It enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it for each other red creature you control, and a +1/+1 counter on it for each other green creature you control. We control 2 other red creatures and 3 other green creatures. So that is 5 total +1/+1 counters. For 1, you may remove a +1/+1 counter from Ulash to deal 1 damage to a target creature or create a 1/1 green sapling creature token. And it'll enter the battlefield with another counter because of Rhythm of the Wild. We do not need to use the warrior because there's only 2 Hydra heads, so we will just go straight to combat. We'll attack with the Vinelasher Kudzu and the Scab Clan Mauler. This will kill these 2 heads. We'll gain 4 life apiece to go up to 27 each. We'll reveal 4 cards to see if there are any new heads. We have a Hydra head, and that's it. Rakdos will count that as having lost life, and we'll tap out and play Rakdos, Lord of Riots. He's a 6/6 legendary demon. You can't cast spells unless an opponent lost life this turn. He has Flying and Trample. Creature spells you cast cost 1 less to cast for each 1 life your opponent lost this turn. We'll go to the Hydra's turn. They'll cast the topmost card, which is Hydra's Impenetrable Hide. Each head gains indestructible until the end of the Hydra's next turn. We'll take 2 damage apiece to go down to 25 each. At the end of the turn, we'll use the Harvester. Simic draws a Forest and discards a Forest. Orzhov draws a Ghost Council of Orzhova and discards the Mortify. Rakdos draws a Rakdos Charm and discards the Rakdos Signet. Gruul draws a Gruul Turf and discards a Gruul Turf. Azorius draws a Sphinx of Foresight and discards an island. We'll also, at the end of the turn, tap 2 to cast Dramatic Rescue. It's an instant, return target creature to its owner's hand. You gain 2 life, targeting 1 of the Hydra heads. Hydra head leaves the battlefield. Azorius will gain 4 life to go to 29, and everybody else will go up to 27. We'll reveal 2 cards to see if there are any new heads. There are no new heads. We'll untap. We'll draw. Simic draws a Progenitor Mimic. Orzhov draws a Orzhov Basilica. Rakdos draws a Mountain. We'll also exile a Utvara Hellkite under the Theater of Horrors. Gruul draws a Birds of Paradise. Azorius draws a Sphinx's Insight. Simic will play an island. We'll pay an island and a force to play Applied Biomancy. We'll get a counter for the island, and then we'll choose our Skitter Eel to get +1/+1 until end of turn, and we'll also return the Hydra head to its owner's hand. It leaves the battlefield, and we'll all gain 2 life. Azorius will go to 31, and the rest will go to 29. We'll reveal 2 cards to see if there are any new heads. There are no new heads, and so the Ravnica Allegiance Guild Kits have defeated the Hydra on normal difficulty. We'll be right back for hard mode. It's time for hard mode. We have 4 Hydra heads assembled here. We'll draw 7 cards apiece. Simic draws a Momorvig Simic Visionary, Island, Forest, Fathom Mage, Trigon Predator, Elusive Krasis, and Coiling Oracle. Normally I wouldn't keep this, but the Coiling Oracle I think is enough to get me to do so. Orzhov draws an Ethereal Absolution, Basilica Bellhaunt, Orzhov Basilica, Swamp, Ministrant of Obligation, Orzhov Guildgate, and Martyred Rasulka. It's not a good hand, but it is a hand, and we'll keep it. Rakdos draws Lizolda the Blood Witch, Swamp, Rakdos' Return, Augursbury, Mountain, Riot Spikes, and Skewer the Critics. This is not very good, because we don't have any action for a while, and we only have 2 lands. So we are going to mulligan this. Rakdos draws a Skewer the Critics, Rakdos Charm, Cackling Flames, Rakdos Cackler, Rakdos' Return, Carnival Hellseed, and Rakdos Guildgate. This is even worse with just one land. So we're going to mulligan down to 6. Rakdos draws a Rakdos Shred Freak, Theater of Horrors, Swamp, Wrecking Ball, Swamp, Splatter Thug, and Skewer the Critics. This is a terrible hand because we only have 2 lands. They're both black, and so we can only ever cast one of the cards in our hand. But I'm going to keep it because I think it's better than going down to 5. We'll put the Wrecking Ball under the bottom. Gruul draws a Mountain, Cindervines, Skargan Titskulk, Rumbling Slum, Skargan Firebird, Clan Guildmage, and Mountain. 2 red mana that will not let us cast anything, so we're going to mulligan this. Gruul draws a Scab Clan Mauler, Mountain, Burning Tree Emissary, Forest, Gruul Turf, Mountain. Look, it's a ton of lands, but we have a turn 2, so let's take it. Azorius draws Asperia the Inscrutable, Dramatic Rescue, Sphinx of New Prob, Stoic Ephemera, Detention Sphere, Azorius Signet, and Azorius Chancery. We can't keep this hand because we can't even play the land that we have. Azorius draws a Sphinx's Revelation, Azorius Herald, Island, Azorius Keyrune, Plains, Island, and Azorius Chancery. Look, this is an incredibly slow hand, but I think we're going to keep it because at least we can play something. Turn 1, Simic draws a Forest, hooray. Orzhov draws a Pontiff of Blight. Rakdos draws a Swamp. Gruul draws a Forest. Boo. Azorius draws a Windreaver. Simic will play an Island. Orzhov will play the Orzhov Guildgate tapped. Rakdos will play a Swamp. Gruul will play a Forest. Azorius will play a Plains. We'll go to the Hydra's turn. They'll cast the topmost card, which is Nectangle. If there are 5 or more heads, nope. Otherwise, reveal the top card of the Hydra's library and the Hydra casts that card. They'll cast the next card, which is a Ravenous Brutehead. That'll go onto the battlefield. We'll each take 6 damage to go down to 14. Then we'll use a Harvester at the end of the turn. Simic draws a Forest, and we will discard the Trigon Predator. Orzhov will draw a Plains, and we will discard the Pontiff of Blight. Rakdos will draw a Dead Rebels, and we'll discard the Dead Rebels. Gruul will draw a Gruul Signet, and we'll discard a Forest. Azorius will draw an Azorius Guildgate, and we will discard the Windreaver. We'll untap. Simic draws an Island. Orzhov draws a Debtor's Knell. Rakdos draws a Swamp. Gruul draws a Rebel Belt Raiders. Azorius draws a Render Silent. Simic will play a Forest. We'll tap the Island and the Forest to play the Coiling Oracle. It's a 1/1 Snake Elf Druid. When it enters the battlefield, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a land card, put it onto the battlefield. Otherwise, put that card in your hand. Well, now we have 1 free mana, but we're not doing anything with it. Orzhov will play the Plains. We'll tap the Plains and play the Martyred Rusalka. This is a 1/1 Spirit. You can pay white, sacrifice a creature. Target creature can't attack this turn. Rakdos will play a Swamp. We'll play both of the Swamps and play the only spell that we can cast, which is Rakdos Shred Freak. This is a 2/1 Human Berserker with haste. Gruul will play a Mountain. Azorius will play the Azorius Guildgate. It enters the battlefield tapped. We'll tap the Warrior and go to combat. The Coiling Oracle will attack 1 Hydra Head. The Rakdos Shred Freak will attack that same Hydra Head. The Hydra Head dies. We'll each gain 2 life and go up to 16 apiece. We'll reveal 2 cards to see if there are any new heads. There is a new Ravenous Brutehead. Gruul will tap both mana and play the Burning Tree Shaman. This is a 2/2 Human Shaman. When it enters the battlefield, add red and green. We'll use that red and green to cast the Scab Clan Mauler, which is the 1/1 Human Berserker with Bloodthirst 2 to trample. Because we dealt damage this turn, we'll get 2 +1/+1 counters to make it a 3/3. We'll go to the Hydra's turn. They'll cast the topmost card, which is another Ravenous Brutehead. We'll take 9 damage apiece to go to 7 each. At the end of the turn, we'll use the Harvester. Simic draws a Simic Growth Chamber, and we will discard a Forest. Orzhov draws a Plains. We will discard the Debtor's Knell. Rakdos draws a Riot Spikes, and we will discard the Riot Spikes. Gruul draws a Savage Twister, and discards the Savage Twister. Azorius draws an Azorius Chancery, and discards the Azorius Chancery. Simic draws an Omnibian. Orzhov draws an Orzhov Enforcer. Rakdos draws a Dreadbore. Gruul draws Ulash, the Hateseed. Azorius draws a Detention Sphere. Simic will play an island. We'll tap all 4 mana. And then we'll play the Fathom Mage. This is a 1/1 human wizard with Evolve. Whenever a +1/+1 counter is put on it, you may draw a card. Orzhov will tap the Orzhov Guildgate in the plains to play the Orzhov Enforcer. And then we'll play the Orzhov Basilica, picking up the plains. Rakdos just plays the Swamp. Gruul will spend 2 mana to play the Gruul Signet. It's an artifact. You can pay 1, tap it, and add red and green. And then we'll play the Gruul Turf, picking up a mountain. And Azorius will come through with the clutch move. We'll play the island, and then we'll tap all 3 of these to play Detention Sphere. This is an enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, you may exile target non-land permanent not named Detention Sphere and all other permanents with the same name as that permanent. When it leaves the battlefield, return the exiled cards to the battlefield under its owner's hand. We'll exile Ravenous Brutehead and the other 2 Ravenous Bruteheads. All 3 Ravenous Bruteheads get exiled. We'll each gain 3 life apiece and draw 3 cards apiece, we'll each gain 6 life apiece to taking us to 13, and then we'll draw 3 cards each. Simic will draw a Nimbus Swimmer, a Miming Slime, and a Forest. Orzhov will draw a Orzhov Signet, a Imperious Oligarch, and a Orzhov Guildgate. Rakdos will draw a Augur Spree, a Mountain, and a Master of Cruelties. Gruul draws a Forest, a Gruul Guildgate, and a Gruul Guildgate. And Azorius draws a Azorius Guildgate, a Azorius Signet, and a Asperia the Inscrutable. Now we'll reveal 6 cards to see if there are any new heads. There is 1 new head. It is the Savage Vigor head. It's a 0/8 elite head, and at the beginning of the Hydra's end step, reveal the top card of the Hydra's library, and the Hydra casts that card. It basically doubles their spells. If it dies, we get 4 life and draw a card. We'll use the Warrior to give our creatures haste. We'll attack a Hydra head with the Fathom Mage, a different Hydra head with the Coiling Oracle. We'll attack the Savage Vigor head with the Hasted Orzhov Enforcer. We'll attack a regular Hydra head with the Martyred Rusalka. We'll attack the Rakdos Shred Freak into the one that the Rusalka attacked into. We'll attack the Emissary into the one that the Oracle attacked into, and the Scab Clan Mauler into the one that the Fathom Seer attacked into. Actually, because of the Mauler, we don't need to attack with the Fathom Mage, so we will untap the Fathom Mage. This will kill all of the heads. We'll gain 10 life apiece to go up to 23 each. Then we'll each draw a card. Simic draws a Zamek Guildmage. Orzhov draws a Vizkopa Guildmage. Rakdos draws a Mountain. Gruul draws a Gruul Signet. Azorius draws an Azorius Chancery. We'll reveal 8 cards to see if there are any new heads. There are 3 new Hydra heads. Then we'll go to the Hydra. The Hydra will cast the topmost card. That is Disorienting Glower. Players can't cast spells until the Hydra's next turn. The Hydra will deal 3 damage to each player to take them back down to 20 each. The players all had to discard down to 7, so we'll do some discarding as well. Simic will discard the Miming Slime, the Elusive Krasis. Orzhov will discard the Guildgate, the Signet, and the Oligarch. Rakdos will discard the Augur Spree, Skewer the Critics, Master of Cruelties. Oh, we can actually take one of these back. We'll take the Augur Spree back. Gruul will discard the Gruul Guildgates. Azorius will discard a Chancery, a Guildgate, and the Herald. At the end of the turn, we'll use the Harvester. Simic draws an Applied Biomancy, and we will discard the Applied Biomancy. Orzhov will draw a Plains and discard the Plains. Rakdos will draw a Thrill Kill Assassin and will discard the Swamp. Gruul will draw a Forest and will discard the Forest. Azorius will draw a Plains and will discard the Plains. We'll untap. Simic draws a Forest. We'll play the Forest. Orzhov draws a Swamp. Rakdos draws a Mountain. Gruul draws a Thunder Shaman. Azorius draws a Summary Judgment. Simic will play a Forest. Orzhov will play a Plains. Rakdos will play a Mountain. Gruul will play a Mountain. Azorius will play an Island. We'll go to combat. We'll attack with a Coiling Oracle. We'll attack with the Martyred Rusalka. The Shred Freak will join the Rusalka to kill a head. The Mauler will take down a head. And the Emissary will join the Oracle to take down a head. That kills 3 heads. We'll gain 6 life apiece to go up to 26 each. Then we'll reveal 6 cards to see if there are any new heads. There are new heads. We get a Hydra head, a Snapping Fang head, and a Shrieking Titan head. The Snapping Fang head says at the beginning of the Hydra's end step, it deals 1 damage to each player, and the Shrieking Titan head says at the beginning of the end step, each player discards a card. We can't cast spells until their turn, so we'll go to their turn. And now we can cast spells. The Hydra will cast the topmost card, which is Noxious Hydra Breath. Choose 1. Noxious Hydra Breath deals 5 damage to each player, or destroy each tapped non-head creature. We have so much life, I think we can afford to take the 5 damage plus the additional 6 damage for 11 damage apiece, taking us down to 15 each. At the end of the turn, we'll discard, and then we'll use the Harvester to draw and then discard again. So we'll start with our first discard. We will discard the Forest. We'll draw, we get a Zamek Guildmage, and we'll discard the second Zamek Guildmage. Orzhov will discard a Basilica Bellhaunt. We'll draw, we get a Vizkopa Guildmage, and we'll discard the second Vizkopa Guildmage. Rakdos will discard the Augur Spree. We'll draw, we get a Carnival Hellsteed, and we will discard Theater of Horrors. Gruul will discard a Gruul Signet. We'll draw a Forest and discard a Forest. Azorius will discard a Summary Judgment. We'll draw a Island and we'll discard Azorius Chancery. We'll untap. Simic draws a Simic Growth Chamber. Orzhov draws a Swamp. Rakdos draws a Rakdos Guildmage. Gruul draws Rurik Thar the Unbowed. Azorius draws a Stoic Ephemera. Simic will tap 5 mana and play Momir Vig, Simic Visionary. He's a 2/2 legendary elf wizard. Whenever you cast a green spell, you may search your library for a creature card, reveal it. If you do, shuffle your library and put that card on top of it. Whenever you cast a blue spell, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a creature card, put it into your hand. Then we'll play a Simic Growth Chamber. As it enters the battlefield, we'll pick up a Forest. And that will trigger the Fathom Mage to get a counter, and we'll draw a card, which is a Forest. Orzhov will play a Swamp. We'll tap 2 to play the Vizkopa Guildmage. We'll tap 3 to play the Ministrant of Obligation. Rakdos will play a Mountain. We'll tap 2 to play the Thrillkill Assassin. This is a 1/2 human assassin with Death Touch and Unleash. There's no reason to unleash because it has Death Touch. And then we'll tap 3 to play the Splatter Thug. This is a 2/2 human warrior with First Strike and Unleash. We will unleash it to get it to the magic 3. Gruul will play a Mountain. We'll tap 4 to play the Rebel Belt Raiders. This is a 3/3 human warrior. Whenever it attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on it for each attacking creature you control. Azorius will play an Island. We'll tap 3 to play the Azorius Keyrune. This is a artifact. You can tap it for white or blue, and for white and blue, it becomes a 2/2 white and blue bird artifact creature with flying until end of turn. We'll go to combat, and we'll get haste with the warrior, 1 creature each. I forgot to read these 2 new creatures. We have the Ministrant of Obligation, the 2/1 human cleric with Afterlife 2, and the Vizkopa Guildmage is a 2/2 human wizard, and for 1 white black, target creature gains lifelink until end of turn, and for 1 white black, whenever you gain life this turn, each opponent loses that much life. We will attack with the Orzhov Enforcer into the Shrieking Titan head. We'll attack with the Thrillkill Assassin into the Snapping Fang head. We will attack everybody into the regular Hydra head, mostly just to get the 3 counters that will go onto the Rebel Belt Raiders. This will kill all 3 of these heads. We'll gain 10 life each to go up to 25, and we will also draw 2 cards apiece. We'll reveal 6 cards to see if there are any new heads. There is 1 new head. Oh, I forgot to draw 2 cards each. Simic will draw a Coiling Oracle and a Gyre Sage, and we will discard 2 Forests. Orzhov will draw a Sin Collector and a Angel of Despair. Rakdos will draw a Swamp and a Rakdos Guildmage. Gruul will draw a Xurtal Swine and a Scab Clan Mauler. Azorius will draw a Sphinx of Foresight and a Depose Deploy. We'll go to the Hydra's turn. They'll cast the topmost card, which is a Ravenous Brutehead. They'll deal 3 damage to each player, taking us down to 22 each. At the end of the turn, we'll use the Harvester. Simic draws a Rapid Hybridization and discards it. Orzhov draws an Orzhov Pontiff, and we will discard the Swamp. Rakdos draws a Swamp, and we'll discard the Swamp. Gruul draws a Immolation Shaman, and we'll discard the Rurik Thar, the Unbowed. Azorius draws an Azorius Guildmage, and we'll discard the Stoic Ephemera. We'll untap. Simic draws a Frilled Mystic. Orzhov draws a Plains. Rakdos draws a Rakdos Guildgate. Gruul draws a Birds of Paradise. Azorius draws a Hover Barrier. Simic will play a Forest. We'll tap 2 mana and play the Gyre Sage. This is a 1/2 Elf Druid with Evolve, and you can tap it to add green for each +1/+1 counter on it. Then we'll tap 2 mana for the Zamek Guildmage. This is a 2/2 Elf Wizard, and you can pay green-blue. This turn, each creature you control enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it, and green-blue remove a +1/+1 counter from a creature. And then for 2 more, we'll play the Coiling Oracle. We know what that does. We reveal. We'll put this in our hand. Orzhov plays a Plains. We'll tap out and play the Ethereal Absolution. It says creatures you control get +1/+1. Creatures your opponents control get -1/-1. 2 white, black. Exile target card from opponent's graveyard. If it was a creature card, you create a 1/1 white and black spirit creature token with flying. Now all of our creatures are +1/+1, and the Hydras are all -1/-1. Rakdos will play a Mountain. We'll tap all 6. He'll play the Carnival Hellsteed. It's a 5/4 Nightmare Horror with First Strike and Haste and Unleash. We'll go ahead and unleash it to put a counter on it. Gruul will play a Forest. We'll tap 4 to play the Thunder Shaman. It's a 5/5 Giant Shaman, and it can't block by more than 1 creature. And when it deals combat damage to a player, destroy target artifact or enchantment that player controls. Azorius will spend 2 mana to play the Azorius Signet. Says 1 tap, add white blue, and I think we're just going to hold up mana to cast Render Silent because we don't want them to stop us from killing their heads. We'll tap the warrior and go to combat. We'll leave this one exclusively to Gruul. They can kill everything if they attack with everything. Plus that'll give the Relvelt Raiders 4 +1/+1 counters to go up to 7 counters, making it a 10/10. This kills both of the heads. We'll check to see if there are any new heads first. There is 1 new Hydra head. And then we'll each gain 6 life and draw a card. That'll take us to 26 apiece. Simic draws a Guardian Project. Orzhov draws a Mortify. Rakdos draws a Swamp. Gruul draws a Mountain. Azorius draws a Sky Tether. On the second main phase, we'll tap the Turf and play the Scab Clan Mauler. It enters the battlefield with 2 +1/+1 counters. We'll go to the Hydra's turn. They'll cast a topmost card, which is Torn Between Heads. Tap up to 2 heads. They don't untap during their Hydra's next untap step. And Torn Between Heads deals 5 damage to each player. We'll go ahead and take 6 damage apiece to go down to 20 each. We'll use a Harvester at the end of the turn. Simic draws an island, and we will discard the Simic Signet. Orzhov draws a Plains, and we will discard a Plains. Rakdos draws a Rakdos Charm, and we'll discard a Guildgate. Gruul draws a Mountain, and we'll discard the Mountain. Azorius draws a Lavinia of the 10th, and we'll discard the Sky Tether. We'll untap. Azorius untaps. Simic draws a Cloudfin Raptor. Orzhov draws an Ultimate Price. Rakdos draws Rakdos Lord of Riots. Gruul draws a Xurtal Druid. Azorius draws an Azorius Chancery. Probably have too many cards. We should have discarded 1 at the end of last turn. Rakdos will go first. We'll play a Swamp, and then we'll tap the Mountain and the Swamp to play Dreadbore. It is a sorcery. Destroy target creature or planeswalker, targeting the Hydra head. The Hydra head dies. We'll reveal 2 to see if there are any new heads. there are no new heads. And so the Ravnica Allegiance guild kits finally defeat the Hydra after a long, grueling battle on hard mode. Let me know what your thoughts were about these games in the comments below. I know that sometimes this deck, even when you know you're going to win, can take forever to actually finish it off the deck because of the mechanics of how the Hydra heads come out. But I'm glad if you made it this far that you stuck with me through it to the end. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button for me. If you'd like to see more of these videos, you can hit subscribe. Next time, I'll be setting these 5 guild kits up against the Battle of the Horde challenge deck from Born of the Gods. Until then, this was Refresh, and thanks for watching.